Looking for excitement? Chumba Casino is here. Play anytime, play anywhere. Play on the train, play at the store, play at home, play when you're bored. Play today for your chance to win and get daily bonuses when you log in. So what are you waiting for? Don't delay. Chumba Casino is free to play.
Experience social gameplay like never before. Go to Chumba Casino right now to play hundreds of games, including online slots, bingo, Slingo, and more. Live the Chumba life at ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Who is the number
Amy's
man?
going to jump in a minute because
She knows.
No
who
one
the
knows what you're
number
talking
man is.
about.
Honestly, you see, you live like in a different world to me, Callum.
It's Callum's little world of urbanite thing that we just don't see.
No, the internet.
The internet.
Look,
That won't
just-
catch on. I keep telling you.
I mean, you literally just did the dance, the number dance.
No.
What are you talking about?
No. That little dance I just did was what the ladies do at the game fair when they're on the Dubarry stand. See, if you get to the game fair early enough, not like you, Callum, who gets there at 1 p.m., if you get to the game fair early, for some reason, the Dubarry people do a sort of like 1980s style, like warm-up dance to get them into sales mode, I think. And so they basically, you got these glamorous sort of ladies and these very handsome young men wearing, tweed mini skirts. That's the girls, and all the chaps are all dressed the same, and they're wearing their boots, and they do this sort of dance, right? Where they're going, let's go out and sell, and then they go and stand in there washing up bowls of water. That's what happens on the Dubarry stand, and if you got there early, you'd know this. Callum is brill. Great fun to watch.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure that's the entertainment I need in my life.
That's the linchpin of the rural economy, then, is it? That's that sort of thing. This is what's keeping us going.
Standing around in washing up bowls full of water, flogging leather boots when rubber was invented by us.
At the Drew Barrymore store.
Drew Barrymore? Drew Barrymore? No. Go on. Dubarry boots.
Dubarry,
Irish.
Huh?
D-U-B-A-R-R-Y.
Michael Barrymore.
No.
Are they the ones that are like leather wellies?
That's right, yes. They're very, very trendy, very expensive, although I did see less about this year of the Dubarry boots, but they're very expensive leather wellies, basically. Yeah, exactly. To be worn with a very short tweed mini skirt and a large
Is that what
hat.
you wear yours with?
Of course I do. I'm only human.
I tell you what, I saw a hell of a lot of, and I didn't realise how popular they were because it's weird because the people I experience in the countryside are actually people from the countryside and not people cosplaying people in the countryside.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of the Chatham loafer.
Chatham loafer?
Quite like them though. Yeah, there were so many sold.
The tasseled one, or is that like a boat shoe?
Yeah, they're like a boat shoe, but they're a really good version of the boat shoe.
Okay, right.
But it is funny that the actual people that I know that do work in the countryside and the outdoors are dressed in outdoory clothing, and then there's the subset of your mini skirts and your and some men were very well dressed. Who was that chap that tagged you on Instagram in his tweed waistcoat and thing? He looked incredible. I don't think I've ever seen a man as well dressed
Nigel
as that.
Vardy.
95% of a man, I think you'll find.
Yes, 95% of a man. Nigel Vardy is a fascinating guy. He comes from Derbyshire, and he's like a proper mountaineer. And 20 years ago, he ascended or attempted to ascend some ridiculous peak in Alaska. And
McKinley, I think.
McKinley, and his and the weather came in, not known to them, and it was sort of like a once in a sort of 50-year storm. And he had the most awful frostbite. So he's lost most of his fingers. He's lost all of his toes. He lost a large portion of his nose. And there's a really good, I'm going to watch it this evening. There's a fantastic documentary that's been made about that called Frostbitten on Amazon Prime. So he received some funding and some help, and he pitched it and made this film because he's returned back to the mountain and met some of the people who rescued him and his climbing buddy off Mount McKinley. Cool. And he is top, but he's always so well dressed. But the amazing thing about him, although he's only got sort of stumps of fingers, he still shoots avidly, but he's always beautifully turned out in a tweed suit. And then so he sort of does public speaking and all that. He's an author, and he's climbed umpteen peaks. So basically, Cal, you and I can shut up and we'll just let Richard and he talk about crampons and ice picks and bits falling off on a mountain.
Yeah, that sounds like an adventurous podcast.
Yeah.
I'm deliberately staying quiet now to not correct anything you've just said. I can do it live with Nigel.
Right. Okay. Well, I don't know anything about this because let's be honest, I come from Suffolk and I get vertigo if I climb the stairs. So, it's...
You've got a phobia of contour lines.
Yeah, we don't need them. Like I've told you, it's a bit like the internet. Mountains never catch on. Never catch on. Just not needed. Not needed. Got water towers to pump water up and down, and the sea, and that's fine.
No. Well, I'm going to be driving over your way in a couple of weeks' time. Yes. So once I get past, I don't know, sort of the Coventry area, I'll basically be able to see the top of your house.
You will. Yes, exactly.
It's just there's no hills,
and you need to develop your gills.
Well,
no hills, some gills.
Yeah,
Suffolk.
Oh, damn, that's a T-shirt.
Yeah.
This episode is sponsored by the Suffolk Tourist Board.
No hills, all gills. Yes. You see, do you know, have you been watching this, Callum? Is that Richard's been sending me through some brilliant CountrySlide T-shirt ideas. They make me chuckle. And I because I can't work AI like you two can.
I thought you were going to say I can't work. I thought this was the start of a PIP claim.
The hedge laying's not going well. He's just gone down that.
You don't need to prove it to me, mate.
Yeah. You've watched
Tell it to the claims advisor.
Yeah, this whole podcast is just an attempt to get Richard back into the workforce.
That's right, exactly. It's a care in the community.
This is his 2 hours. So he can get his job seekers.
Yes, Richard has to sign a thing saying I'll be paid for this.
Should we do a Patreon plug right now? It seems like a good
exactly.
If you want to make sure that Richard Negus is in work, you can sign up to the Patreon for just £3 a month at countryslide.co.uk/support, and you get extra bits and you get access to our WhatsApp group, which is like nice Twitter. Thank you.
Exactly. And the cigars don't buy themselves anyway. So, yes.
No, and the WhatsApp group, for those who've been hearing about this for a few episodes now, is expanding out because most patrons have joined. And there's a few extra special people in there who are sort of friends of the show, and they've been allowed access too. But we've done it as a WhatsApp community. So everything's starting to be sent, shuttled off into little topic groups. So we've got a food and drink one. We've got a hunting and fishing one. We've got one about cars and vehicles, and people are sort of diving off into different chats because it's such a diverse set of topics that we really have to break it all down. So it's now becoming like a little forum almost, but it's very active.
Isn't it mega?
It is
now,
active.
Richard, tell me what are those mushrooms that you have picked in the food and drink WhatsApp? What are those yellow mushrooms? And tell me about them and what you do with them.
So they are Cantharellus cibarius or cibarius. They are chanterelles. So they are growing in the 90-acre woodland that we manage, the sort of long, thin one that's basically a gorge. And I've never seen a flush like that in this late in July. So
what is it? Is that early or late?
It's quite late for these. They're normally sort of earlier in July, but never this much in one go. But on my way down there, because I was driving down there to go and clear some trees off the track, and I bumped into a guy called Mike, and we were chatting because there's always somebody scurrying around in the undergrowth when I go down the footpath, and I wanted to find out what he was up to, but it turns out he runs the North Wales Mushrooms Instagram account. So I urge you to go and have a look at that, because he finds
very niche,
the weirdest and most wonderful mushrooms all across North Wales. And so we spent half an hour chatting about mushrooms, and there's some quite rare ones in that woodland that we've got there. Some spectacularly rare ones, in fact.
What classifies as a rare mushroom?
Not many of them around.
Wow, thanks for that.
Well, so give me an example.
It's the definition. So there's a sort of cyanic thing. There's basically one that doesn't quite glow in the dark, but it's very, very lime green, almost blue. It's this very weird color. It's almost metallic. You know those 2-tone or 3-tone paint jobs you used to get on TVRs and things like that?
Yeah.
Like pearlescent. It looks like that, but it's all blues and greens. And it's a fructose lichen, I think.
And what do you do with those particular ones, those chanterelles that you pick? How will you cook them?
Like every good mushroom, it's cooked with garlic and butter, and effectively just ends up tasting of garlic and butter, which is what most French cooking does with mushrooms, is just put them in with garlic and butter until you can only taste garlic. But they are chanterelles. They have something called primitive gills on the underside. So not all mushrooms have gills, but these do have the gill bits underneath. But as you get down to the edge of the cap, they split into pairs and they go all wrinkly. So it looks like your fingerprints when you've been in the bath for too long. You know, your skin gets all lumpy. Yeah. So it looks exactly like that, except it's egg yolk yellow. And
is there a mushroom that you would say that has a unique and delicious flavour over the normal sort of thing, so you wouldn't sort of go and chuck garlic in there? Is there one that you pick and go, oh, they taste good?
We quite like Sep or Puccini, Boletus edulis. So we take those and cut them and slice them and dry them, and they are very, very special. They're actually better dried. Quite like wood ear or jelly ear,
jelly ears,
auricularia auricula judea.
Which gives you the old-fashioned name that we didn't. We now no longer.
No, but it's still the Latin name. Yeah.
Exactly.
But what we do with those is we dehydrate them, and they'll stay for years dehydrated. And then those are the ones you've had, which are rehydrated in rum and then dipped in liquid dark chocolate.
Dipped in chocolate, they were yum, and they have that. There's like no other chocolate you've had, because there's a slight bite in the texture to them. You don't taste any mushroom at all. You only taste the rum and the chocolate. But they're the best truffles you ever had, because they've got this sort of slight al dente bite to them. It's almost like eating a slightly undercooked bit of rigatoni. Right? But tasting delicious.
Al dente Turkish delight. Almost. Yeah.
Lovely. It really was.
I mean, I've got to imagine, Callum, do you do anything with wild mushrooms in the autumn?
No, I cooked a mushroom sauce tonight, actually. It was quite good. Right. But I don't do anything with... I don't really have wild mushrooms. I know a guy that used to trade... but I don't mean like... there isn't anywhere around here that I know of. Right. And I'm also not clever enough to successfully pick mushrooms and work it all out. So I do need the helping hand. But yeah, I knew a guy that used to trade mushrooms, and he said it was one of the worst businesses that he ever had, because he'd get them and then they'd lose so much weight within like 24 hours that his £25 a kilo was only worth £12.50.
Yeah, that is a thing. No. Were they wild mushrooms he was selling, or?
Yeah, he was selling quite a lot of wild mushrooms, because he was French, and he still is French.
You don't lose your Frenchness after a while.
No, you don't actually. It's perpetual.
Perpetually French.
There's a t-shirt idea as well.
Right then, dear listener, this is an insert recorded a few days later, because at some point during this recording, Richard's Suffolk internet decided it didn't want to actually record. So we have had to cobble this episode together a little bit to account for that. So from memory, what he had just asked me, but didn't make its way into the recording, was, is it true that in France, if you go to a pharmacy with your basket of mushrooms, they'll tell you what species they are or if you can eat them? It's meant to be true. So it's one of those things. Yes, by law, if a pharmacist should be able to tell you, identify mushrooms for you. The problem are there are about 14,000 species of non-microscopic fungi you're likely to come across in Northern Europe. So if you go into your pharmacy in beautiful France with a basket full of unidentified things, what they might do is pick out 2 or 3 that they are really obvious and they're very commonly eaten, and then just put the rest to the side and say, oh, they're all inedible or toxic.
Right.
So in theory, they could. What it actually turns out to be that you can take in the basket and they will tell you what commonly eaten ones can be found within that patch. But this is the thing with, people always say that the Europeans eat so many more mushrooms than we do. And, they're always eating mushrooms. They're always mushroom foraging. What they're doing is going back to the same spots again and again and again, even generationally, to pick the same species again and again. So they're not they don't know the names of 14,000 species.
No.
They know where to find 3 species regularly. It's like, so it is like going back to the same apple tree again and again to get apples and say you're an expert in apples.
So there's this lake in France. This is your wheelhouse. How do we end up in your wheelhouse? We're talking about your world, mushroom boy. There was this place in France, and the guy that run the lake, Mr. Gavie, used to go out every single morning, and he'd do exactly as you said. He'd know where those mushrooms are, and he's looking for the same thing. Although there was a curveball thrown, and thankfully he won't be listening to this. There was a curveball thrown that my friend bought some escargot snails.
Yeah.
And he started cooking the escargot snails, and Mr. Gavie asked where he got them. So he pointed to around the sort of loo house that exists, the toilet block.
Yeah.
Pointed to the toilet block. He said, I found them over there. Next morning, he wakes up. It's sort of 6 a.m. Mr. Gavie's poking around, looking at the toilet block. And then the following morning, it got to about day 4, 5, and it was at such a point that he just couldn't bring himself to say, actually, I was only joking, because 4 days on the bounce was quite the commitment. So he waited off, and I think, no exaggeration, early morning, sort of like sunrise time, for about 2 weeks. Poor old Mr. Gavie went out to the toilet block, took the 10-minute walk, and looked for escargot snails that he could get his hands on. But they didn't exist.
Imaginary snails. Do you go out and get wild mushrooms, Richard? It sounds like a very you thing to do.
Well, there's about 3 that I can identify and I feel confident in. And they are ink caps, horse mushrooms, and puffballs. So I'm quite happy with those 3, and I think I can wholeheartedly go and identify them. There are others, because, my friend Ross Guyton's a bit of a mushroom forager, the chap from Oakbank Woodland. And he got fed up in the end of people sending him sort of blurred photographs saying, is this all right to eat, Ross? And he said, I didn't want to be the man who said, yes, that's fine, and then discovered that. And I got a mushroom foraging book, and I realized just how many look so similar to the ones that they say, oh, these are delicious. And then they're often confused with, certain death cap. And I thought, nah, do you know what? Do you know what? I'm not actually that close to the land that I'm going to go and run the risk. I'm not that hungry that I'll eat that or pick that I've eaten, which I don't really know. I mean, I would probably, if I came out for a jaunt with you and you're coming up to or down, shall I say, to see us and look at some of the fungi at Wicken, and I probably might feel more confident because you would show me, and then I've sort of got quite a good photographic memory for that plant is this and that is that. Once I've seen it once, I go, I can ID that. But now I'd be too scared. I do eat most things that I shoot, and if I can't eat them, and so like I don't shoot shoveler anymore because I think they just taste so disgusting. I think, why do I want to shoot a shoveler when I know I'm not going to eat it? There's no point in it. Squirrels. We had a conversation on the old CountrySlide WhatsApp about squirrels. I'll shoot squirrels because they're scum and they need to die, but I'm really not with going and skinning a flipping squirrel. I would just quite happily chuck it out and say, "Oh, buzzards, eat that," and then you won't eat it.
Quite good, actually.
I was going to say, yeah, that's a Callum thing to do. Squirrel.
We had a squirrel croquette, and we also did a squirrel pizza.
Pizza?
You have to roll it out really thin.
So the trick with the squirrel is to confit it.
All
so
right.
we basically just filled a tray up with oil, stuck that in the oven, and then confit the squirrel.
Right.
And that was really good because the fat means it doesn't dry the meat out.
Yeah.
But the trouble with the pizza is when you stick it in the pizza oven, it's insanely hot, like 400 C in the pizza oven. So it pretty much ensures that it dries out really quick. So it's not great on a pizza, but it's fantastic in a croquette.
No.
So another thing to try, works well with squirrel and rabbit and a few other things, is to brine them.
Yes.
And when we do rabbits, we do them like I take the bucket of brine out into the field. So they are gutted and skinned and then literally just thrown into the brine immediately.
So before the lactic acid sort of rigor mortis sets in, you're putting them when they're still wobbly.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it gets rid of all the rabbitiness of them and gets rid of the gaminess that you get with squirrels as well. Although one squirrel that we did years ago, or Amy, I think it was one of the first squirrels Amy had butchered to eat. And we got around to sort of skinning to the back end of it, and we found another air rifle pellet in the leg of the squirrel from someone else having a go at it. Different caliber that had obviously healed over. So they are the tough little things.
I've skinned muntjac before and suddenly hear a blink on the floor of the shed. And there's a 2.2 air rifle pellet falls out of the poor old thing's hide.
God.
Yeah, I know. Well, I think it's because you see, the muntjac is so addicted now to going into village edge gardens, and they've got big shrubberies, large gardens, and they know that's pretty safe. And I think these avid gardeners then suddenly see this thing eating their whatever, and then they give it for some reason they think that shooting a 2.2 air rifle is perfectly fine at a muntjac. It will only shoo it away. But of course, the reality, poor old thing, is them bimbling about with a 2.2 air rifle pellet lodged halfway between its sort of skin and its flesh.
I just realised we'd just done something which was to condemn the entirety of squirrels that we should shoot, and then didn't specify in any way, shape, or form why. That's quite bad. It's quite bad to do.
So what? Hang on. Right, let's all say which colour of squirrel we're shooting.
Right, 3, 2, 1. Red.
Red.
Oh. No. Wait, what? I've never shot a squirrel in my life.
No. Well, okay. Because I plant a lot of trees and I'm in the woods a lot, and they're not really actually that bad with hedges. I'll be perfectly honest. They don't do a lot of damage to hedges, but they most definitely are buggers in the woods. But also the sheer number of eggs that they take is remarkable. I don't think
eggs.
Yeah, eggs. Yeah. Absolute menaces.
And songbirds and chicks.
Yeah, they're an omnivorous creature. And they are most definitely.
I have no idea.
Yeah, they are menaces to grey partridge. You'll see them sometimes, but sort of a couple of weeks back, before the grey partridges hatch, you will see them scampering along a hedge, a long way from any nearest tree, and you think, well, why are you here? There's so much to eat on that tree, which is 500-600 meters back there. And why are they traversing on there? Because they are hunting for eggs, and they're just as likely to come across a grey partridge nest as they are for a sort of linnet, yellowhammer, low part of the hedge. That is fair game as far as a grey squirrel is concerned.
I remember one of the Basque squirrel management group things, it said something along the lines of, if you have at least 5 squirrels per hectare, you are going to get at least a 20% reduction in nesting success of small birds. Yeah.
Wow.
They are ridiculously voracious because they can just get to everywhere.
Yeah.
There's no small bird that's going to fight off a squirrel.
No.
I heard a expert tree man say...
Tree man? Was he an ent?
Yeah, it was Groot from the Avengers series.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to name drop because, you know.
Clang.
Anyway, Groot told me... he told me that the squirrels were the biggest problem. I said, what's the biggest problem in here, like protecting all these trees that are in this park? And he said, it's 100% squirrels. And he said, the worst thing about it is the fact that these days they feed on the pheasant feeders, and they have twice as many babies as they did before. It doubles because their food is not scarce in any way, shape or form. Mm-hmm. So the population becomes out of control because they feed on the sort of pheasant feed most of the year, through the shooting season.
I think there's just generally food available all right over. I think that's a bit erroneous to go and say that, because if you look at, I only feed now
not my words.
In my bird feeders, I only feed very, very small, tiny little seeds, sort of finch food, and the squirrels don't come. But my father has an ongoing battle because he feeds all sorts of things, peanuts and whatnot, in his feeders. If you think, I can't remember the exact figures. I did write an article once, but wild bird feeding was worth something like, I can't remember how many millions to the economy because of seeds and nuts sold in garden centres, and you know, there's more wild bird food available in the supermarket than there is cat and dog food. And you know, the squirrels going, this is brilliant, thanks very much, you've supplied me with all this.
Yeah,
I mean, for us it's the we've got a grey squirrel, we have a red squirrel reintroduction project just over the hill, and we are sort of linked by linear woodland to that, so we are on the cull zone to support that project. So we cull there, and we've got a lot of beech trees, and they strip the bark and just completely strip everything off the beech tree. It's often lack of mating opportunity, or it's mating competition is the thing that makes them do it. So people used to think it was they're trying to get to the sugars or something, but it seems to be that it's mostly a mating competition. So because it happens at boundary areas.
So therefore, like, stripping bark is like wanking for squirrels. My lord!
I was going to say it's more like when you take the label off a beer bottle. Yeah.
I was literally having the same thought, and I was like, I was hoping that was actually not just a me thing. It was a ubiquitous thing that people always said.
Yeah,
you rip the labels off beer bottles when there's a lack of mating opportunities.
Well, that's what, like, surely it's an urban legend, but that is a thing that has somehow been said. Probably not true.
Sat at a beer table and one of your mates is ripping the label off thing of Beck's or something, and someone else says, that's sexual frustration, that's what that means.
Is that what that Alanis Morissette, was it Alanis Morissette? All I want to do is have some fun, and
all I want to do is have some...
Billy's peeling the labels from his bottles of Bud is about his sexual frustration. I didn't know that. You see, there we go.
Is that the actual words?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it does make sense, yeah.
So at the game fair, people kept coming up to us and saying, this podcast, you just have no idea where it's going to go. Listener, I can tell you, this is not intentional. Oh. This is happening in real time. Yeah. I have no idea what Callum is going to say next, but I know it's unlikely to be something I can predict.
I mean, I did not have mushrooms and squirrels on the bingo card.
No, or sexually frustrated squirrels in particular.
What's Rachel Reeves been up to?
I have no idea. She's actually way out of the list. She's been kept a bit ever since she burst out crying, and then they dragged her on, poor woman, to go and smile inanely, into people saying, I'm okay. She's literally been just kept under wraps. I think they put her back in a cupboard somewhere.
What's the wife of the Scientology bloke that people don't know if she's still alive or not? He's a bit like that. There's a guy who runs Scientology.
Wife. Oh.
No, the guy who runs Scientology, and then his wife hasn't been seen in public for years.
Oh.
And there's this whole theory about, is she still alive?
Frozen. Yeah.
So let's talk about the game fair a little bit, because we're going to talk about it properly in the after show, because we've got some things to share. But this was the first time you took the family to the game fair, wasn't it, Callum?
Yes, and it was very difficult. I don't know if you've ever taken a 1.5-year-old that just wants to run up to strange dogs and stroke them, that they don't know if they're safe or not, but that was hard. But yes, we went Friday, pressing cheeks, making friends, and that was quite good. Got to meet some of you guys in the flesh, and then I took the family on the Sunday, which I think traditionally has been one of the quieter days, and it's a different crowd. The sort of people in the industry are Friday people.
Yeah.
Jolly Ups are Saturday people. It's a bit of a mix of both.
Jolly Ups.
And then on Sunday, it's people looking for a bargain and people that didn't. There was quite a lot of people that were just like, let's hope everything's 50% off. And it was quite quiet, actually. And most people that are in the industry, that worked in the industry, looked like they'd already been there 5 days. So their souls had left their bodies. And they were just an empty vessel. The parking attendant, I'm pretty sure I woke him up as I entered the game fair. He was just delirious and sort of half asleep.
Shouting, leave me alone. Leave me alone.
Yeah, I don't want to go to school today.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
Oh, park over there.
Park where you like.
Yeah.
I'm done.
How about you, Richard? Because you sort of had this weird thing. You had like a piece of elastic tying you to the GWCT stand, and you couldn't go too far on the radius, could you?
No,
he's on tag.
No, I was on tag. Yes, quite. I actually, it was a bit like, if I go too far away, I actually blew up.
They've actually got a Perdix Pro tag in him that
he's good reference.
He's ring fence to the GWCT stand, and he gets geo electrocuted should he exit.
There's a trail camera at the end of the row, and if AI detects that there's a Negus leaving the area, then they dispatch a gamekeeper.
That's right. Yeah, would kill me. What did I do?
Or his hired help.
I did stay a lot around the GWCT. What did I do? Basically, I was selling books. So we managed to sell 40 copies of Words from the Hedge, for which I think 60% went to the trust. So we managed to raise some decent money for the trust, which was my ambition, because I didn't get any royalties for that. They get all the lion's share. So that was all good, and I signed those. Met lots and lots of lovely people who said nice things. I did a talk in the car to Jonas, which I have to say was very funny, because I struck it absolutely right. There are all these people, many far more famous than I, who are whinging about the fact that there's only 7 people listening to them talk to Charlie Jacoby, and I was able to say, well, I had a full house. And I didn't add I had a full house, because as soon as I started talking, the heavens opened and it started raining, and everyone flocked in to anywhere. And I had an absolute full house. In fact, it's standing room only in there listening to me. So it worked superbly, and so now they know if they've listened to this.
Did anyone brave the rain?
No, they ran away. So to go and I can stand the wet. I hate him. I hate hedges, and I hate him. Yeah. One of the interesting things I did find when I did get away to have a wander around was the number of people who tapped me on the shoulder and they said, "Have you got a book coming out?" And that was the moment it dawned on me that this podcast that us three do is actually in a lot of people's ears, because they started regurgitating the gags which we either intentionally or largely inadvertently use and do as our sort of fast show-esque punchlines, and they were saying them back to me. And I was minded of Paul Whitehouse saying, do you mind it when people go and sort of do shout Scorchio at him? And he said, no. He said, because I realised that actually people are watching what I do. And I felt exactly the same feeling. And it was rather
nice
humbling.
Sense of pride.
Yes, exactly.
We ended up having to go to the Yeti stand, didn't we?
Yeah, and we spent far too much money at the Yeti stand, as always, because basically it's just stainless steel bottles with a label on it that for some reason cost £35.
I only bought a little mini coffee thing because I needed more of those.
Yeah, and what else did we went? Oh yeah, we went at the end of Friday all the way over to the fishing village, which was this big experience for Callum, because it's this running joke that he always goes to the game fair to work and take photos and never goes to the fishing village.
Yeah, and he got there.
Traditionally, they put the fishing village like I think it was like one of the days before. It was like 3:00, and I think it was asked you, Prido. I think I said, "Where's the fishing village?" And you said it's over there. You go through this little thing, through this clearing, and it's about 40 minutes walk. And I was like, well, I'm not doing that.
Do you know how I knew the fishing village was there?
Because you accidentally went there?
No, because it's next to the lake.
Ah, yeah.
Do you know, Charlie, my son Charlie and his mate James, who came with us, they got around like poo on a blanket. It was amazing. They were everywhere, and I think by the time the game fair was over, they knew every single store holder. They'd be walking past going, all right, and they just kept coming back with gizzits. I'm not just talking about little leaflets and stuff. They'd come back with, oh, I did this deal with this bloke here. I talked to him. I said, you're my dad. And they gave him this thing, right? So I think he's probably said, oh, yeah, he'll write review for you about this product or that one. So I'm waiting for my email to go and sort of explode with people saying, when are you putting this into whatever magazine? And so he got this stuff. But they went out and they had 2 fishing lessons with...
Yes, that's Angling Trust.
Yeah, they had 2 fishing lessons with the Angling Trust. And so they had to go one day with a rod and reel, and then another day with a roach pole. And Charlie caught, I think, 3 roach and a carp, and his mate James, who is actually quite an adept carp angler. His PB's a sort of good double figure fish, and he's very sort of self-sufficient and goes off and spends nights out and stuff. He caught less than Charlie, so Charlie had bragging rights about it.
Yeah, it's always good.
Yeah.
The Angling Trust, they are the good guys. Getting out there, I think you booked in a session for a junior, and you got sort of, it wasn't just like, I'll have a go, catch a fish. You actually spent like half hour or an hour or something with the instructor.
Yeah.
And they really give you a taster of fishing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, what a great thing to do.
I mean, so enough about the game fair. Let's go on to the real news of the episode.
Yes.
What's this about the big dead red deer on the A14?
Oh my lord! Honestly, this
what a segue.
So many people have told me about this.
Well, basically, he was a massive stag. I mean, he was big. I couldn't see his head, but if you know the A14 and the way into Bury St Edmunds, there is a place on the left-hand side just before you get into the second turn off into Bury St Edmunds by Berry Bowl. So right by the 10-pin bowling alley above there. There was
are the sugar towers in front of you.
Yeah,
now?
they're in front of you and to your right, just. And there was this red stag that was there, and he would, I would think, well, I mean, Monica the Glen would be having size envy against him. He was a whopper, and obviously they blow up a bit once they've been laying there. But how on earth I mean, I would hate to see the vehicle that hit it for a start, because I just think if you hit one of those things, it's about the size of a Frisian bull. But secondly, what on earth was it doing there? I mean, I know that muntjac now are going into much more sort of urban-y areas, suburban areas, but this is not far at all from the Abbey Gardens in Bury St Edmunds. So you've got a red stag there. So I can only think that the poor old sod, that deer pressure is now getting such. Poor old lad, he was on there. And then I put that on our patrons WhatsApp group, and then there are a few people from this way. Oh, I saw that. Well, mind you, you'd have to be blind not to see it. It was that bloody big.
It's like a hazard to shipping.
Yeah.
Where are the nearest reds to bury?
We have a lot of
quite
reds.
a few around that
Yeah,
way.
we do. I mean, have you ever done any photo shoots with red deer stalking my way, Callum?
Yeah, done a few actually.
Yeah.
Culling the does, and they do so much damage as well.
Yeah.
Culling. Yeah.
Heinz.
Sorry,
But they do. But do you know what? They're a fascinating bunch. The Suffolk and Norfolk red deer. There are sort of two distinct herds. There's one which sort of comes from Euston Bigwood, so that's where the Duke of Grafton lives, and there's a load there, and they sort of cross back and forth between South Norfolk and into Suffolk, and then come down to me. To about my way. And then there's another herd which is closer to the coast at Dunwich, and they reckon that most or some of the
cart ones,
the carted stags,
carted stags,
and it's not just me who's heard that. I know Graham Downing often talks about it. Was that the Norwich staghounds were a carted stag pack? In other words, they hunted a tame or a number of tame stags, which they would then hummel them. So they would cut off the antlers, and they lived like horses out in the paddock with the hunters. And then they would chuck them on a cart, on like a horse box, and the Norwich staghounds would then go and chuck this old stag out. They'd give him 15, 20 minutes law to go and get away in wherever he went, and then the hounds would hunt him, and then eventually he would come to bay, and then they would sort of shoo him back onto the horse box, a bit stiff-legged, and back he would go. And when they banned that, which I think was in the 1950s, not so much because they thought it was cruel, it was more because it was complete mayhem, because you had this sort of semi-tame red deer galumphing where it wanted to, and chased by a pack of hounds with a load of sort of lunatics chasing on, because of course, you never knew where this stag was going to go. But they banned it, and I am told that the guy who had those, he basically went, off you go, spanked him on the arse, and these great big hefty stags went off, and they sired the sort of monstrous deer that we have now in Suffolk and Norfolk, and they are vast. But one decided to go and visit St Edmund's tomb.
The descendant of which is now inflating somewhere on the A14.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Euston's like a old deer park, though, isn't it? So that's what I assume where those ones come from. No.
Well,
I don't know how they got a train.
They have got some. I think they've done some DNA tests, because there was
another joke that no one will get.
Go on.
Thank you.
Do you remember that woman who was American, who came over here a few years ago?
Still is American.
She still is American, yes. But do you remember that Yank? She was sort of some sort of influencer, and she was sort of vaguely attractive, and she went around doing all these sort of hunting things and always daubing herself with blood. And then she went up to the Highlands, onto some island somewhere.
Yes.
Yeah. And she sort of said she was hunting wild sheep, and they were basically this thing was actually something like a Swaledale tup or something that she'd shot. Well, this vast, great big stag that she shot, there was some debate over that, because you could actually see, if you looked at one photograph that she placed on her Instagram thing, that there was a tag in that thing's ear. And I think someone managed to go and work out the tag number, and it had actually come from a deer farm or certainly a herd in a deer park somewhere down here. And so it's obviously taken up somewhere or other up north. And the duty rumor was they were almost doing caged hunting like they do in America, in Africa with sort of tame old lions that they put into places where rich Yanks can go and shoot something with a guarantee.
Yeah, it's the weird guarantee thing of this. I mean, they do it in the States as well. They have high fence hunting,
right?
But then there's this thing of tethered hunting.
Tethered.
Good
grief! What?
Yep.
So this thing is actually tethered to the ground, and then you go and shoot it.
Yes.
Good God.
Honestly, some people are just
weird,
disgusting.
Yeah,
just gross. Like how do you get your rocks off to that? How do you just sit there and be like, yeah, I'm a hero. I have changed something up and then killed it, and now I'm the champ.
I like this universal rule of, would you still do that thing if people would never know you had done it, or you couldn't put it on social media and you couldn't get any social points amongst your circle for having done it? And if you would stop doing it then because you were only doing it to be seen to be doing this thing, then you're probably not my kind of person.
No. Utterly bizarre.
What was that noise?
Was that Richard's?
That was what was the dog on the floor. That was Amy's dog. Protesting against me not feeding him.
The noise was incredible. I hope that comes out in the audio recording because I heard that quite clearly. It was a very disapproving groan.
I thought Richard was either suddenly going to fly off in the Millennium Falcon alongside Han Solo, or I thought, you want to get your dinner, mate. No. That's it. Well, no. So therefore, once again, we've discovered that there are some bloody horrible people out there. But yes, so the A14 stag is now put to bed, or rather to the side of the road. He's thankfully, and is now mouldering away somewhere.
What's that? We've talked before about moving dead horses. I mean, it's pretty much the same for moving a rotten dead red, isn't it?
Well,
that's a winch job.
There was a series of documentaries where they basically went and did the working lives of very ordinary people. But when you think about it, these ordinary people doing ordinary jobs were actually fascinating. And this was about the M25 and the people who work on the M25. So they went and sort of saw what it's like to go and work on one of the big service stations on the M25, and the people who do the vehicle recovery and a traffic cop. But they also had this guy who was a fascinating fella called who was from the Dead Dog Squad. And basically there is a thing that when you get roadkill on the M25 is they have to then shut a lane off, because if you got the stag that side, if you kept driving into that, you're going to have a massive pile up. And they call them the Dead Dog Squad because obviously for the dead dog connotation. But they then had this bloke who was very phlegmatic about it all. You have to be going picking up hideously mashed up and stinking and bloated badger carcasses and all sorts of things. But his hobby was ferreting, and how he had managed to get permission to go and ferret the rabbits alongside the M25. He was an absolute legend. Yeah, he was from the Dead Dog Squad.
Dead Dog Squad. Again, another T-shirt.
Yeah.
Another T-shirt.
But it's can they only do dogs, or do they have to get someone else in to do other things?
Yeah. God, I tell you what.
Not my jurisdiction, mate. Nah, you won't.
Change the subject. I've got the big doors open on my study here, and it's like the M25 out there at the moment, because of course everyone's desperately trying to get harvest in, because we've had a bit of rain and the wheat's going a bit black. So I think there's going to be some very tired lads and lasses driving tractors and combines.
What does it mean when the wheat goes black?
Well, basically it ripened, so we had that long period of good heat and sun, so the barley was fine. But then what happens is then gets rained on, and what it starts to do is actually, whilst it's in the head of the wheat, it gets a bit mildewy and starts, which is the black, and it starts to actually sprout in the head. So that is suddenly, oh dear, that crop is not worthless, but it's worth a lot less than it was. And if you had milling wheat, i.e. stuff were going to be for human consumption, it's no longer for human consumption because the weather has dictated against it. So the guys,
so they couldn't have got it earlier because it started to rain.
No, and also I don't think it had quite got there. I don't think it had quite ripened sufficiently, and then still warm, wet, and then it started doing this little germination thing and turning black and mildewy, and
then you've got all the economics of even if it's still wet but is of okay quality, you've got to pay the drying charge, and there's not enough of a margin on it to cover the drying costs.
Yeah,
and there's a lot of people doing wheat this year as well. It seems.
Yeah, well, because oilseed rape was people have got a bit frit of oilseed rape because there is you can't spray it with what you used to spray it with, so it gets eaten. So there's a lot of wheat around there. So wheat prices are high. And of course, wheat prices have dropped, and so I mean, who would be a farmer? It's also those things. We've said it many a time. Their job is hard enough. If you're an arable farmer, your biggest enemy is the weather. You don't want another enemy of a government who is, ambivalent at best to your work and the pitiful margins that you're making. But they've got that at the moment, and I don't think it's going to be a terrible harvest. I don't think anyone's shooting themselves. And one of the things I always find is quite amazing about arable farmers is they're very phlegmatic and understanding of the fact that they are at the vagaries of the weather. They're not all just going, oh my God, the weather's terrible, let's shoot ourselves. They go, oh well, that's happened. Swings and roundabouts. It will level itself out next year.
And I've seen a few of the sort of screenshots and messages, and there's an old video that does the rounds as well of people from the local village coming out to you whilst you're in the middle of the harvest saying, could you come back and do that tomorrow? I'm trying to sleep.
Yeah.
Or can you keep the noise down or the dust down, as if it's a recreational thing that they're choosing to do.
I went salmon fishing in Scotland once, and they
not the Yemen
harvesting at your little jokes that don't land. You just the little smirk you give at the side, and then there's people that are probably stopping the recording and jotting it down like it's a Times crossword, thinking, "What did he say? Salmon? What was that reference?" There's going to be a listener at some point that gets so obsessed with this they just write down all the obscure references by Richard Prideaux, and there will be a webpage just for that.
Yes, sorry, salmon fishing not in the Yemen. Tell me what happened with that.
Salmon fishing not in the Yemen. Yeah. We were in this little bothy thing, and they were harvesting like all night. I just thought it was the most fascinating thing to watch with all the lights on and looks so dramatic. I don't know how anyone could get the hump with it. It was just well impressive. I suppose if you're trying to sleep, but just have another whiskey, you'll be all right.
You don't do drones, do you, Callum?
No, I have a drone man.
You pay for a man to come with his drone.
He's very good as drone man.
A gentleman's gentleman.
Yeah, I've done a fair amount of filming of harvests of one type or another, and it's it's one
vehicle tracking thing. Is that?
Well, I do about. Well, this is a few years ago, so the vehicle tracking thing on DJI drones didn't work that well then, so you just did it manually, which means you've got to do an orbit of a combine as it's going up a hill. You got to match the speed and work out your distance from it, and keep the camera pointing at it, and all moving at the same time. So I just have to turn my brain off, and no one can talk to me whilst I'm doing it. But I get some footage. I'm going to drop it into the Patreon chat, the clips of one of the things I did. But it's a lot of work to get it to do that. Yeah. But it does look really good.
I got a drone guy.
Yeah.
Well,
I am the drone guy.
You wouldn't want to go fly your drone into the combine's header, would you? That'd be quite an expensive and messy enterprise.
I've seen people do it. Yeah. I've flown between the tractor and the combine when they're filling up the grain cart. Mm-hmm. I've done that a couple of times. And tracking cab height with the combine. And there's one because there's a guy here he brings his sheepdog into the cab with him. So the sheepdog is just looking at stuff all the time, looking at the rabbits and the things that are running out, and he's just fixated on this drone. He's like, I'm going to get that. I'm going to get that. I'm going to get that.
It's not like Jeremy Squirrels' wonderful golden retriever, who is the most beautiful and soft idiot, like all golden retrievers are, and she just sits in either the combine or the sprayer, and his sprayer is quite sort of old school and with a very small cab, and she's a very large dog, and it's very funny. So all you see when he's driving past in his sprayer is this dog with its face squidged up against the glass, you know, the sort of tongue stuck out like some sort of window-licking idiot. Hi, Jeremy. Hello. I can't remember his dog's name. It's like Maud or something like that. It's absolutely wonderful. And then gets out, and so we say much to say when he's in a combine is she's with him everywhere he goes. Man, it's great. It's a window-licking dog.
Well, so we started with Squirrels and we've ended with Squirrels.
Yeah.
So I think it's a good time to finish the main show and head on to the after show. And for all of you people who only get the main show, yes, we have teased a lot of the after show stuff, but basically they're the ones that keep the lights on around here. It's all those lovely patrons who pay for things. So we're going to move on over to the after show now. Thank you to everyone who listens to the episode, and thank you to everyone who we met and spoke to at the game fair, and all the friends new and old that we saw there. Right.
Bye.
One thing before we go.
What?
Yeah.
What?
I've just, Amy just prompted me. There's a thing.
Oh, go on then. Give us your thing.
For the next few weeks, the main show is going to be pre-recorded. I know they're all pre-recorded, but they are 4 episodes that we recorded at the game fair. So we've got a couple of interviews with CEOs of large organizations. We've got one of the Guns on Pegs people, but we're not talking about shooting. We're talking about other stuff. And then we've got 2 scientists talking about conservation and ecology. So those are all the interviews from the game fair, which will be going out 1 a week, and that'll be in place of the main show. But it doesn't mean we'll be idle, because Callum and I are going to sit down and record some more episodes of The Mullet, our business spin-off. Richard and I have got a side project talking about the news and stuff like that, the stuff that Callum doesn't really care about. And there's a whole new exciting project which we haven't worked out yet, but that is going to be something a bit tastier. Let's say that.
Yeah, it's that naked calendar, isn't it?
It's a naked calendar. Right.
Yeah.
Off to the after show.
Bye.
Bye.
It is Ryan here, and I have a question for you. What do you do when you win? Like, are you a fist pumper, a woohooer, a hand clapper, a high fiver? If you want to hone in on those winning moves, check out Chumba Casino. Choose from hundreds of social casino-style games for your chance to redeem serious cash prizes. There are new game releases weekly, plus free daily bonuses. So don't wait. Start having the most fun ever at ChumbaCasino.com.